Hey, if you're a contractor working in Kansas, you know that navigating the local rules can be a real headache. Well, today we're going to clear up one of the most confusing parts, contractor bonds. We'll cover what you really need to know to get to work legally in the Sunflower State.
So let's get right to it. This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Before you even think about starting a project, you've got to make sure you're compliant. So, do you actually need a contractor bond to work in Kansas? The answer, well, it might just surprise you.
That's right. Believe it or not, unlike a lot of other states, Kansas does not have a statewide requirement for contractor license bonds. So if you're looking for one single state agency to deal with, you're not going to find one. This is a really key detail that sets Kansas apart.
In fact, Kansas is one of 31 states that leaves all of the contractor licensing and bonding rules up to the local governments. This means there's no single state law to follow, but instead kind of like a patchwork of different local rules that you need to be aware of.
So what this really means for you is that everything, and I mean everything, is handled locally. Your entire compliance journey starts and ends with the city or the county where you're planning to work. Getting this wrong can lead to some serious project delays, and nobody wants that.
Okay, so if the rules are all local, what does that actually look like on the ground? Let's dive in and take a look at the requirements in some of the biggest cities across the state.
Take a look at this. What's really interesting is how you see some patterns, but also some key differences. For example, in bigger hubs like Wichita and Kansas City, the bond amount is somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000. But then you've got Overland Park, Topeka, and Lawrence all holding steady at a $5,000 bond. And notice how each city has its own department that handles it. You've got the building department in one and the building safety division in another.
And this right here might be the most important piece of advice we can give you. These local rules can, and they often do, change. So before you ever bid on a job or start any work, your very first call should be to the local city or county office. You have to confirm their current bond requirements. Never, ever assume last year's rules are still in place.
All right, so just when you think you've got this whole local-only rule down, Kansas throws a curveball. There's one major exception where things suddenly jump back up to the state level. And this is specifically for contractors who are working on public projects. This big exception is called the Kansas Little-Miller Act. It's a state law, and its whole purpose is to protect taxpayer money on public jobs. So, if you're bidding on a government contract, think a school, a highway, a public building, this is the law that you need to know about.
So when does the Little-Miller Act actually kick in? The magic number to remember is $100,000. Any public construction project in Kansas that's valued over that amount automatically falls under this act.
So how does the state protect its investment? It's a two-part system. First, the act demands a 100% performance bond. This basically guarantees the project will get finished no matter what. And second, it requires a 100% payment bond, which makes sure that all the subcontractors and suppliers on the job get paid. It's a smart way to ensure the project gets done right and everyone gets their money.
Okay, so we've talked about the what and the where. Now let's get down to the bottom line. The questions every contractor asks. How much is this actually going to cost me, and how much of a hassle is it to get one? Let's talk about the practical side of things.
And I've got some really good news for you here. Getting these local municipal bonds is incredibly affordable. You see, you don't actually pay the full bond amount. You just pay a small percentage of it each year. So for a typical $5,000 bond, if you have decent credit, you're only looking at about $50 to $150 for the whole year. It's just a small, manageable cost of doing business.
And it gets even better. For the vast majority of these city and county contractor bonds, approval is pretty much instant. This isn't some long, drawn-out process that's going to hold up your project for weeks. It's usually a really quick and simple step to get you compliant so you can get on the job site.
So let's do a quick recap. Point 1. Remember, there's no statewide contractor bond in Kansas. Point 2. The golden rule is to always check the local city or county rules where you're working. Point 3. Don't forget the big exception. Public projects over $100,000 have their own special state requirements. And finally, the good news is that getting the bond you need is almost always affordable and fast.
Get your surety bond quote in minutes at buysuretybonds.com.